Hello and welcome to Binge. I'm Harry Judd.
And I'm Alex Jones. Now this week, Harry's going to tell us all about taking Izzy for a little birthday treat to the theatre to see a matinee. What did they see, I wonder?
Yes, and we'll find out whether Alex ended up on the slopes or in A&E.
Oh, Harry's been watching Paradise on Disney Plus and is raving about it.
Yes, and Alex has started White Lotus and she'll give us the Lotus down.
Oh my God, stick to the day job. And our brilliant guest is man of the moment, Dommett. And the question is, to subtitle or not to subtitle?
The big reveal. Alex, how was skiing?
Well, I'm still in one piece.
Good.
Which is, a plus. But also, Harry, you were right. It was hard work.
With the kids.
Okay, the overview is it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And we have already booked to go next year.
No way.
Again.
Okay.
The boys thought it was the best holiday they've had. And after 2 days of ski school, they were whizzing down.
Yeah, they're fine, right? Yeah.
They were fine.
Yeah.
Annie, I predicted 30% happy, 70% whinge.
Yeah?
That was
that the right
on.
ratio?
Bang on.
Right.
So she was too young to go to ski school. They said, we just can't. It's really busy. It's half term. And we haven't got the amount of staff that is needed to take young kids.
Because I saw a couple of Insta stories that you posted with Annie. You're like doing something kind of a bit innocuous. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, poor Al.
I know.
The boys are skiing in the mountains. And you're doing something really dull with a 3-year-old.
I know. So Charlie went off with kind of adults and teens skiing. He was in his element and he was sending me these photos. He'd gone above the clouds and it was like bright blue and beautiful. And I was like, yeah, we're fine. We're just having another hot chocolate. And carrying Annie like up and down even to the cafe was really heavy because she was wrapped up.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is getting them dressed in the morning. Day
such
one.
a bore.
So we got out eventually. Everybody was sweating because we were
Yeah.
putting all these layers on in the hotel. Like the balcony door wide open.
And when you're walking in the boots as well, the clip, clop,
Yeah,
clip, clop, clip, clip, clip.
And when we got out of the car, a migraine started.
For you?
Yeah, because that's like it had been stressful.
And a high altitude, maybe.
It's not for the faint-hearted. It could have been the high altitude. But anyway, Charlie then said, look, Al, we're here now. Have a lesson.
So wait, you was at this point, you're like, this skiing is not for me. This is
not
horrific.
for me. But the minute we got up in the, in the lift and we got up to the top, suddenly I thought, this is great. It is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the fresh air is amazing. And he said, right, we're here now, have a lesson.
Yeah.
So I thought, great. Handsome little Austrian out for a couple of hours. Here we go. No. Stern looking, late 60s man called Sean.
Really? Having none of it.
And I said, have you got any English speaking instructors? And there were 2 ski schools, the green one, which was the one with all the young people, full, packed. The red ski school had all these old codgers who were just sitting around waiting for their next victim.
So you joined them.
So Sean takes me out. I was like, oh, Sean, do you speak English? And he was like, yeah, top, what?
What does he mean?
He could only say top and Brexit. Those are his only English words.
What did he mean by top? How is that helpful?
Well, we go into the top.
Oh, okay. Right.
So, and then he said, right, we're going to get on this ski lift. I thought, hang on, I don't even know the basics. I said, Sean, I never been on skis.
Was it just you and Sean?
Just me and Sean.
Because getting on a ski lift, the chair ones,
Thank you.
It's intimidating if you've never done it before.
Exactly.
It
And there
just
was no
scoops you up
explanation.
and off you go.
No explanation. So we started on the sort of the rope lift.
Yes, yeah.
Which that was fine. I could sort of work that out.
Did you do the button lift?
We did a button lift.
Yeah.
But you know what? We ended up having such a laugh because he had no idea what I was saying and vice versa.
So you're just laughing.
And then the next day I went out with Charlie a bit, which didn't result in a divorce as predicted because compared to Sean, at least I could understand what he was saying, how to turn left and right and all the rest of it. I loved it.
Yeah? So you
Yeah.
enjoyed the feeling of skiing, yeah?
I really liked
good,
it.
isn't it?
So we are booked in for another 4 days. But my advice to anybody with young kids is 4 days is enough.
Right, okay.
Because it's a lot.
So you've booked again next year for 4 days again then?
Yeah.
Okay. And the boys, they loved it, right?
They said, Mama, best holiday ever. I would go again. We are going again. But it's not for the faint-hearted.
Okay.
How was Izzy's birthday? I saw on Instagram that you were in the theatre in a little matinee.
Yeah. You know, me and Izzy, we love our theatre trips. It's been like our thing ever since we've been together. We've been together for 19 years now, I think. And the first thing I ever did was take her to Phantom of the Opera. And yeah, so God knows how many theatre trips later, we went to Mean Girls.
And?
at the Savoy. It was amazing. It
Was
was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So funny. You obviously know the film, right?
Yeah, I love the film.
Yeah, it's like brilliant, like comedy, like rom-com, but it's one of those ones that broke through and it's become like quite an iconic rom-com from the noughties. I think it's the early noughties. It's almost like a cult classic, Mean Girls, and they've adapted it into a musical. And yeah, it was as good as the film, honestly.
Was it?
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. The cast were insane. So there's like 6 main characters, and all 6 of them, first of all, like the vocal talent in the cast is incredible. Me and Izzy just kept looking at each other going, oh my God. And you know, that's something you do a lot in the theatre. You're like, wow, amazing voice. But all 6 of them vocally were outstanding. It was really funny.
Tina Fey turned it into a musical as well, didn't she?
Yeah, it's so funny. It's quite like some of the humour is quite risky as well, which is good. But also, it does have it has a nice message at the end, because it's all about, you know, the main theme is all around like bullying and what have you within school. So that was a nice touch at the end. But honestly, funny, like music was great. And also the staging was awesome, because it looks, when you get there, it looks really basic. It's just this massive kind of screen. So it's like kind of like LED screen, and you're thinking, well, how's that going to be dynamic? How's that going to work? But it works brilliantly with the whole comedy aspect of the show, and the staging of it was just brilliant. And yeah, I could not recommend it higher enough. I really hope you can see it. So there we go.
Good. Happy birthday, Izzy.
That was a half-term highlight, definitely. Right, enough about us. Back to the whole point of this podcast. Al, let's give some recommendations. What have you been watching?
Well, I started White Lotus because we have watched the 1st and 2nd season, and
Same.
the 3rd season has just come out, hasn't it?
Yes.
This time set in Thailand. The usual kind of cast of outrageous characters, very funny in places, but it's all based around this event that happens at the beginning. So
Yes.
It opens with a very dramatic shooting, and then you go back in time a week to see who's landing on the island and who could be
Yeah, how it
involved.
all unravels, yeah.
Exactly. So it looks amazing, as you'd expect. And we had Jason Isaacs on the One Show last week, who's in it.
Mm-hmm.
He explained that they filmed in 3 different hotels in Thailand, including the 4 Seasons. And he said, it was a nightmare, though, because we had to stay there as well. So we were staying on set, essentially. I was like, which bit of that sounds hard?
Yeah, and also, did they have actual guests at the time, or did they shut down the whole hotel?
No, they shut down the whole hotel.
That's pretty mega.
I know. So it is very good. And it starts off with a bang, and sort of promises, I think, to deliver exactly what the other 2 have done, which is a really great series.
So, for those listeners out there who haven't watched season 1 and 2 of White Lotus, I would say, Al, that is a top recommendation.
Definitely. The thing with this one, though, they are doing it weekly. So you have to wait a week to watch the next episode.
Hence why I'm waiting for every episode
I was
going to
say,
out.
so for you need to wait.
Well, so honestly, you can't go wrong with White Lotus. I reckon it covers lots of different genres. It's funny, it's dark, it's dramatic, it's a bit of a thriller at times. So I'd say it's right up there. I've not met anyone that hasn't enjoyed it.
No, I really enjoyed the first episode, so looking forward to the next one now.
Yeah, I would struggle not being able to just click next episode.
I know, it's a bit frustrating. It feels a bit old school not being able to watch the next one.
Yeah.
What about you?
What about me? Well, I'm still completely hooked on Veep. I'm on to season 3 now. I'm very conscious that I'm a co-host of a podcast which recommends different TV series. And every night I'm thinking, right now, come on, Harry, watch something else so you can talk about it on the podcast. But I just can't stop myself from watching Veep.
You love it.
I just love it. It's something about it. It's so comforting. It just hits this sweet spot for me of like humor, and I just love the characters. But fear not, BGT's back on. So I watched that with Lola.
Oh, yes. It was first episode last week.
First episode last week, which I find always very entertaining, particularly these first stages with the auditions. And also Bake Off's finished. And just a quick line on that one. I cried.
Did you?
I cried. I was saying this to Izzy. I think ever since my cat died, so when Morris died, I cried.
You hated Morris.
I know. I didn't.
What's all this Morris love suddenly when it's too late?
On reflection, I didn't. I loved Morris,
Right.
okay? And I cried a lot when he died. And since then, I've cried about 3 or 4 times.
Oh, Morris has had a profound effect on you.
Yeah, so Junior Bake Off, made me cry in the final episode. Austin, spoiler for anyone that's watching it, the winner was Austin, this sweet boy called Austin, who in the early episodes wasn't doing so well. And when he was getting criticism, he kept crying. And we were always like, oh, poor Austin. Anyway, and he was one of the youngest and he ended up winning. And the families were in the final and his sister was crying when he won. And Izzy and Lola looked at me and I was literally tears streaming down my face. So, yeah, there we go. So I watched Bake Off, BGT, and I have started Paradise.
Oh.
Yes. So for me, it was either Paradise or White Lotus. And I think because I knew you were going to watch White Lotus and I was only going to be able to watch one episode, I thought I'll start Paradise. And well.
Really? Because, I mean, it's on loads of posters, on buses and all of that. They're going big on the ad campaign.
Yes.
Is it worth the hype?
Well, they've gone big on the story. I mean, it is, the first episode is crazy. So it starts off, and again, I'm always conscious of spoilers, but it starts off, you've got the head of security for the president, right? And the beginning of the episode, much like you said on White Lotus, something very dramatic happens. It goes back to the present day and then keeps flashing back. And it's really interesting, the concept. So I think I'm right in saying, 'cause it happens pretty early on in the first episode, he goes in and finds the president dead on the floor, shot, right? And I'm assuming that the way it plays out is that it looks like he could potentially be framed for the murder. And you're thinking, okay, that's going to be the whole premise of this series. Quite interesting, but is that enough for me? But well, when you get to the end of the first episode, I mean, I daren't say it. It's the most crazy concept. So it almost feels like a blockbuster movie concept. But I'm looking forward to seeing how that unravels.
Brilliant. Okay, I think we need to get a guest on.
Woo!
What do we reckon?
I think so. It's a good one this week.
Well, we missed the final of The Masked Singer, so we caught up with it on the weekend. And I'm excited to talk to our guest today all about it because he is Joel Dommett.
I don't normally get this honour, but this week I'm going to do the guest introduction. Ooh. Joining us now is a comedian, presenter, and all-round entertainer. He's the host of The Masked Singer, I'm a Celeb Unpacked, and the NTAs, and also he co-hosts the podcast Never Have I Ever. But more importantly, he is my occasional running partner. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Joel Dommett.
I mean, I thought you were going to say friend, but I'll take occasional running partner. I'll take that.
I thought you were going to say good friend, and then you went occasional running partner.
Well, look, you've been a very busy man. Last year, we ran the Amsterdam Marathon together, and we ran together quite a lot during the summer. But this year, Joel has been very busy.
It's sort of easier because Wild was very young then, my son. And so you'd go out on naps and you're very much at home, sort of in that nesting period. Whereas now he's a little bit older, so it's harder to get that moment. And when you do get that moment, you're like, oh my God, I've got an hour. I've got to go. And you just run. So I really feel bad.
So when we had time, we were like driving 20 minutes to like meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And then going for like a run together. But of course, now you've been doing all your TV shows and you're on tour. You did your first show yesterday.
It's really hard. Like, I'm actually really excited now because my first tour show was last night. And what people might not know, I'm sure it's the same with McFly, but getting the tour show together is harder than doing the tour itself.
Yes.
Because I did like writing the show, getting it because comedians, they do like little gigs on the sort of the working up to it.
Yeah, like warm-up things.
Warm-up stuff. So for the last 2 months, I've literally been out pretty much every night, gigging, doing these small little rooms, just like tinkering, doing all these bits and bobs.
What venues are we talking? Like local ones?
Yeah, pretty local. And then I do sort of ones a bit further aflung just to get the idea of whether it works, like different in Aylesbury, different region amateurs. And then like, it's just different now because I used to get in at midnight, it's absolutely fine. But now you get in at midnight and then you're up early in the morning. So it's just a different, I'm just trying to learn the landscape of having a child. And then at 1 o'clock, I'm like, see you later, Hannah, I'm off for 2 hours to go for a run. And so I'm trying to fit these three things in, being a dad, running, and watching all of the Traitors is an impossible task.
It's a big ask. So lots of build up to the show last night then. So you'd done all the warm-up gigs.
Yes.
And then last night was the proper one in Bristol.
Proper.
Were you happy? Was it You know, was it?
That face says
good?
no.
Yeah.
I think the problem is with me, Harry will know this. I don't think I'm ever really. I'm not really ever happy, which I think is a good thing because you're always, again, just tinkering, constantly moving around. The show at the start of the tour is entirely different to the one that's at the end of the tour.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps your excitement in it, because if you just wrote a show and then didn't really change it, but at the middle, you'd hate it. So I love just like trying to improve it, trying to make it all make more sense and have more fun with it. But last time was good. They were a really nice bunch. It was a real interesting thing because I did Bristol. It was the first day, and I'm from Bristol. Weirdly, everyone else does their hometown gig right at the end of the tour, but mine was the first one just because I didn't read the email. So they sent me the tour dates. So I was like, there's some place names. I'm sure I'll be fine. Shouldn't have done the first one. So my mum was there at the first one, but it went really well.
But you know, from my experience of touring, the first night is so different to every other night. Like the adrenaline is intense, and it feels so different, and everyone's on edge, and you're just like rushing through it, and it just goes.
You feel like you're at school.
As a comedian, you've got to be seemingly with it, and you know.
Yeah, that's not my energy, luckily, on stage. Okay. I did this joke actually in the tour about how I'm not one of those comedians that makes it look easy. You have those comics like Jimmy Carr and Kevin Bridges who just everyone leaves and they go, "Oh, it looks so easy." I'm one of those comics where I reckon about half of the audience will leave this evening and go I reckon I might give that a go. Actually,
he earned his money there.
Do you know what? That is exactly what I think when I watch myself playing the drums. I've got my eyes closed. I pull the weirdest faces. Yeah. I do not make it look easy. Whereas you've got those drummers who are singing along, performing, so fluid. I'm the complete opposite.
I thought your eyes were closed because you were enjoying yourself.
We're panicking, aren't we? We don't quite know what's happening.
Oh my goodness. Well, Joel, is it a long tour? What's the plan?
Basically, I mean, again, essentially the effort you put into putting it together, you might as well rinse it for what it's worth and try and get it out to as many people as possible. So I've got the first 30 dates, and then we'll add an extra bunch of dates as well. So basically, I'll be touring this show, I think, probably for the next 2.5 years, really. But
hardcore.
Yeah, I genuinely love it, and I love presenting so much. I really think it's amazing, and the opportunities that get given with the wonderful shows that I'm a part of is so great. Meeting wonderful people like yourselves, and but it's so nice to go back to comedy. Not that I ever stopped, but doing tours just really makes you just find a different gear. It's just a different type of gear, and it really feels like good for me to have that panic, have that anxiety, that real sort of it's just yesterday, just trying to figure out how to use this program called QLab, which queues up all the different things for my show, and I've got all these sound cues. Do other comedians do this? I'm
Not
I'm trying to.
I don't reckon.
No, I'm I probably should pay someone to do
team.
it. I know, but I'm so tight.
More money for you. Do you know what though? I mean, and obviously this is a safe space, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people get comedians to host a lot of different television shows now. That's kind of the go-to thing. Mm-hmm. But I think with you on The Masked Singer, and we watched the final this weekend because we missed it when it was on because we were away, and absolutely loved it.
It's mad, wasn't it?
But you really work on that show. It is brilliant because a lot of the time they get a comedian on thinking that will solve all issues.
Yeah, just and be funny. No, it doesn't.
And sometimes it makes it more awkward in a sense because there's more pressure to put jokes in where sometimes you don't need them. But you have nailed it on The Masked Singer. The balance is brilliant. We love you on
I'd say it's still a work in progress, personally.
Stop it.
I'm still tinkering like the Todd.
Stop it. It's very good. Very good.
Also, quick, whilst we're massaging Joel's ego, I'd like to say that the intro for the NTAs was
thank you.
Absolutely epic. And I can say this firsthand, like Al said, you work so hard. And I was so impressed because that to me felt like old school TV where huge effort is made. It was just pure all round fun entertainment. And you must have been shitting it, let's be honest.
I really was. It was really weird. was really interesting. The whole process of the NTA's opening was really interesting because the last 3 years, I'd done like an opening monologue, which was sort of very much the traditional thing that was done. And it was always a real battle to sort of get things across the line in terms of jokes and make sure everyone's really happy with it. And there's so many people involved. There's the channel, there's producers, there's everything. And, it's not my vibe to like insult people, whereas other comedians might do that. But I want to make sure everyone's really happy and sort of feels included in the room. And it's such a celebratory environment there at the NTAs. And so finding that right balance of jokes that work, that don't sort of cross that line, it's always really hard.
Yeah.
And it would take so long to write all the jokes, and it would have to go through a lot of people, and everyone would always have an opinion on it. It was really hard. Whereas comedy generally it's best when it's when less hands are put on it, I think. And so I was trying to find a way of making that celebratory start without having to do jokes as such, and still mention all those people. That's what they want. They want to go like, this person said this person said this person.
Yeah.
And because before I used to like go to comedy clubs and then I'd write all these NTAs jokes about the people who are in and then try it out in the comedy clubs and see what lasts. And then I'd record those sets, take it to people and channel the producers and go like, look, they really laugh at this one. And they were like, I'm not sure. And you're like, oh yeah, but they're laughing. So it's really hard to like, everyone has a different opinion on these things. For right or for wrong, it's not, it's no sort of indication on them really. But I just was sat down in a meeting, probably about this sort of time of year last year. And I said to them, I was like, I think I need to just do something different, like something that gets the show started, that's really fun. Still being able to mention it, I was like, I think I can do a song. Like, I think we can still do those same jokes, but put less pressure on the laughter in the room. Because if that award ceremony wasn't live, you could add in laughter, make it feel like you're having a much better gig in the room. Because the O2, if I was to do stand-up at the O2, if you watch, it's a hard room to play to the best of times.
It's
Massive.
And when you play in that room and it's live, so it's hard to dub the laughter in and make sure it's the right level. And then also trying to get the camera angles for the right reactions, and you don't know, because you can't edit it. It's what's happening. It's so hard for so many different people. Me, the director, the producers. It's really hard. So I was like, let's just make it easier by just making it a song, which is much more choreographed in the sort of camera angles and everything like that. And luckily it really worked. It was a lot of effort. But
It was
really
a punchy start. It was good.
Yeah.
Really funny. And it puts you in much less of a vulnerable position in a way, isn't it? Because it's a lot more polished before you know?
It really gave it an energy that I didn't feel before. The funniest things was the when I first pitched it to ITV, the idea of me, like, I reckon I could do a song. They were like, can you sing though? And I was like, no.
Doesn't
but like,
matter.
I feel like I can do enough to be able to create an environment. Yeah. And they were like, okay, well, could you like prove to us that it will be all right? Because from their point of view, they don't want it to be a disaster, right? So it was so funny. So me and my friend, we'd write these songs and then sort of put them together in a really weird way, like rubbish way. And then I would just like sing it in my office at home, like in some Apple AirPods to like a camera, and then just like send it to like ITV commissioners going, is this all right? And they were like, yeah, it's fine. And then the next week they booked some singing lessons.
Brilliant. But you actually started off The Masked Singer with a little song.
Oh, no,
the final.
Everyone's getting involved in them now. I sang with Danny.
You sang with Danny.
It's become Joel Dommett's way of opening a show.
It's really fun. And hopefully, and also, I don't know whether this is true or not, but because I'm not like a good singer, hopefully it comes across as someone's just like really trying their best.
No, it doesn't. It looks like you think you're good.
It doesn't.
And we're all sat at home going, does he think he can sing?
Does he think he's good at this?
Does he think he's as good as Danny? Because...
It's just that look. I love that on the final when I finished the song and then I'm stood next to Danny. I'm like, oh my god, it's at the end.
By the way, I know I'm ironically singing. By the way,
I'm not trying to reach his notes.
But we were saying that Danny and Pufferfish sounded so brilliant together. We know now that, spoiler by the way, if you haven't watched it, stop listening for a sec. Winner was Samantha Barks.
Unbelievable.
And those two together, their voices sounded amazing.
Danny's here today, and I just said to him, I was like, oh mate, by the way, I saw Masked Singer final, you and Pufferfish, amazing. And he was like, oh mate, I learned that on the day. It was the day after we'd done 2 nights at the O2.
Shut up.
So he was absolutely knackered. He didn't know the song, and he still managed that. He's pretty
he's special,
good.
isn't
We
he?
were both the same with our opening song in the way that we both hadn't really thought too much about it. And the lyrics for that song, one way or another, or whatever it's called, is it Blondie? I think it's Blondie, right? It's quite complicated because it's all the same but slightly different. So it's like one way or another, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna see you. And you've got to get all those different ones. And me and Danny, we were like, I don't know which one's which, man. And you have these cues in your ear where someone, so we messed it up so many times in the rehearsal that they were like, okay, we're going to put a cue in your ear. And we're like, okay, great. When we did it for the real thing, then you're singing it, you go, one way or another. And then someone in your ear goes, gonna find you.
That's brilliant. It was a very good series, though. Loved it. And
Thank
Samantha
you.
Barks, amazing winner. Pufferfish was fantastic, I thought, from the beginning.
Yeah, just like those incredible voices that you... Again, it's somehow makes you like tune into their voices more when you can't see their face because you don't know who they are. Same with Danny. That you just really listen to it, and it blows my mind even more so now that I've learned how to try to sing on these things. Like so impressive when people can really sing,
it's
and
such a
just
talent, isn't it?
unbelievable.
And you don't know, do you? You don't know until they're unmasked.
No, they don't. And sometimes I don't know when they are unmasked.
You're like, oh my God,
It's another cue.
Oh my
Samantha
God,
Barks.
it's whoever they're going to tell me in my ear. Yeah, I told this story a lot about the first series. There was this guy called Alan Johnson, and he was nearly Prime Minister of our wonderful country. And he was on the show, and I don't really know much about politics, so he was on it, and I was just, oh my God.
And in your ear, were they like, it's Alan Johnson, it's Alan Johnson.
Yeah, it's Alan Johnson. Alan Johnson.
And you're like, it's Alan Johnson
The
from...
Right Honourable.
Oh, no.
I know. And then I've told that story on stage.
And they're like, it's Alan Johnson, he's an ex-politician. So you're like,
yeah.
This
Some
must
real
be
info.
very different from PMQ.
Yeah.
Were you Prime Minister? I don't know.
And I saw him on This Morning. He was like a contributor on This Morning when I was hosting it. And he's obviously on that round table with me, and he's sat there, such a lovely man, like really, honestly. And I hadn't seen him since I talked about it on stage, and I went, Alan, how are you? Right. And he was like, know who I am now, do you? I love you, Alan. What a lovely man.
The thing is, though, Joe, you obviously, you put so much effort into your work, obviously with your tour and your presenting work. It's really refreshing to hear somebody like
admit
just talk
that they're
with
shit.
but to say like how much work it takes, and I think that would be a real insight for people listening.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen, does it? There's a lot of effort that goes in. And you've got a small boy,
Yes.
very young. And I'm just wondering, where on earth do you have time to watch any telly? What are you doing here?
Well, it is that, I know. It is that mad thing, isn't it? As a parent, you guys know, that it sort of makes, when you have a child, TV is more important than ever, I think, in a weird way.
Yes.
Because it becomes that thing that really is your time together. And I know you should probably be sat opposite each other with a candle, having a meal, having a chat.
No.
But all you want to do is just like do nothing and just sit there and watch something and connect without talking, I suppose. And just because it is so hard being a parent, especially early on, I suppose. Yeah, so we love. Well, there's so much telly now. Mm-hmm. There's so much, which is what this wonderful podcast is about. But there is so much, and there's so many different types of television. I think now it's kind of, I feel like telly for us is really, it's really split into sort of two camps almost. We sort of purposefully put on telly sometimes that we know that we can be on our phones while we watch it.
Yes.
Like, this is no offense to these shows, but like, we're obsessed with Made in Chelsea. We love watching Made in Chelsea.
Is that still going, by the way?
It's still going,
Is it
man.
still going?
I would say better than ever.
Really, I loved the first few seasons of that.
So good. Made in Chelsea is fantastic. And we just get really, and it's slightly false, but then it's really clever how they, and again, knowing about telly and how it's constructed a little bit. I find it fascinating, that show, because some of it's real, some of it's not, like how the producers sort of massage the storylines wonderfully, and it's really, it's really incredible. And we just, it's our favorite thing to just put that on and just sort of sit there, be on our phone, like do nothing.
Bit of Instagram. Send each other DMs of like reels that you think are funny.
Exactly.
Whilst watching Made in
Parenting
Chelsea.
reels that are funny.
It's comfort, isn't it? It's familiar voices in the background, familiar scenes that you can dip in and out and you don't have to fully concentrate.
And then on the other end of the scale, I've got a show that I like to watch when if she's out and I've put Wild to bed or whatever, I'll watch this by myself and I'll go into it. Or if I'm on a long car journey, so I'll watch this by myself because she can't watch it. She hates subtitles.
Okay.
Hannah hates subtitles. She's like, if I wanted to read, I'd get a book. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sort of with her.
So what show is this?
So Shōgun.
Shōgun. Yes, I knew it.
Shōgun.
I've been watching Shōgun.
Disney Plus.
Oh my God, look at that picture. That puts me off immediately.
It's unbelievable. And I think part of the reason that it's incredible is it does have subtitles, and it's the other end of the scale where you have to concentrate. You have to, because you can't be on your phone for 10 seconds. If you're on your phone, and it's so complicated. It's like Game of Thrones, but like, set like ages ago in Asia with these amazing sets, beautiful costumes, incredible acting, scripting's beautiful, but all subtitles. So if I literally look down on my phone for 10 seconds, I look back up, I'm like, I've got to rewind it.
You've lost the thread.
Yeah.
So can you sum up in kind of 10 seconds what Shōgun is?
No.
No.
I watched this, Joel, and I haven't really mentioned it much on the podcast because I couldn't sum it up either.
It's so
I wouldn't
intense.
do it justice. Okay, here we go. Set in Japan in the year 1600. I'm out. Can't even read the description.
Yoshi Toranaga.
He's fighting for his life as his enemies on the Council of Regents unite against him when a mysterious European ship is found marooned in a nearby fishing village.
No thanks.
It's drama, it's love, there's politics, there's war. It's pretty gruesome at times. It's beautifully shot, as you said, and the costumes, and it's literally like you're there, right? You're going back in time.
And it's so, I know it's such a stupid thing to say. It's such an in thing to say. It's graded so beautifully. It just looks
graded. I always look for a beautifully graded program.
Watch out, guys.
What's the colour palette?
It's won loads of awards, hasn't it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we jest, and I'm being, completely...
You're being flippant, as always, Al.
But I'm being flippant, but to be fair, it's won tons of stuff, hasn't it?
But I think there's something about that show for me that's really interesting in the way that, like, even something else that was in English, I wouldn't concentrate as much now, because as a parent, you kind of just get at the end of the day and you're like, okay, I just need to go on my phone and catch up and reply to people and do all that stuff. But there's something about that makes me watch it. And there's nothing that's come along quite like that recently that's made me watch it.
Right.
And I don't think if it was in English, I would still get distracted a bit.
What sort of dramas does Hannah like?
So we loved Call My Agent, actually. Again, that was a sort of COVID lockdown-y sort of vibe, wasn't it? And we loved that. That was really great, even for subtitles for Hannah. We something that we dip back into every now and again and love. And when we watched it all in one go, you must have had someone on this podcast who's mentioned it before, but we loved Schitt's Creek. We love it. Just feels like, I don't know whether it feels like a pivotal time in our lives, but it was sort of pre having a child. It was COVID lockdown, so we just blitzed all of it. And there was something about it that we'd never... I'd never seen a show like it before, in the way that it was so optimistic, so happy. All the plot points were so easy to deal with, I suppose is a nice way of putting it. Whenever the writing was so lovely in the way that it was never like, you never felt like a problem was going to come up. So just... you left every episode feeling happy, and you went to bed feeling happy, and you're excited for the next one, and you just binge, and they're so short. They're like 22 minutes, and you just like, one of my favorite series of all time. I think it's brilliant writing, incredible casting of like odd people that you wouldn't necessarily, Hollywood wouldn't necessarily cast in anything. And perfect casting. And we loved it.
Do you know
Okay.
what? You have delivered, unsurprisingly, some great recommendations there, mate. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Before we wrap up, there's something you do at the end of this podcast called Desert Island Binge, which is a totally unique idea.
Yes.
So you go to a desert island, you're allowed to take one book, one podcast, and one TV series or film to this desert island with you. What are you going for? Let's start with book.
I would take a book to remind me of my son.
Oh.
So I know this is rubbish, but I just, if I was on a desert island alone, I'd take the Gruffalo and I would just sit there on a desert island by myself crying every
Blubbing.
day. Just crying, just like, there's a deep dark wood and there's a fox and there's a snake and then an owl comes down.
I love that answer. That is great.
We read it like 58 times a day.
TV series then, Joel. What are we going for?
TV's, I've already said Schitt's Creek.
You can say it again.
So I think it's boring to do that.
I think
Okay.
so too.
I'm going to say Desert Island, something to keep me upbeat. You don't want something sad. The first series specifically of Ted Lasso, I think, is a really great choice.
Yes.
What podcast are you going to listen to whilst you go for a run around your desert island?
Oh yes, I've got to make sure I keep up my mileage, haven't I, Harry Judd? Podcasts I really enjoy listening to. I'm really enjoying at the moment. Just like, you know, when like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you would listen to 2 podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
You would just rotate those 2 podcasts and you do that. I feel like everyone's expanded their network. Whereas like now I feel like I listen to like 8.
Yeah.
You know, and
I need more because I listen
Yeah.
to them every night. I listen to them on every run I do. I need more.
I have my AirPods in all the time. Like, do you have this when you're at home and you have this moment where you're like, well, I can't possibly unload the dishwasher without listening to a podcast. And so you put like a podcast
you have
on
them
to
in at
unload the
home all the
dishwasher.
time as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
Not when
yeah.
Hannah's in because she's like, she finds that weird.
Yeah.
She's like,
You're not listening.
You're in a conference call. Yeah. But the podcast I think I would take with me, this is so boring, but I would take this one.
This one,
Yeah,
obviously.
don't worry.
That's a
Obs.
freebie.
The rest is entertainment. Is great.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
And I think we can all agree it's really good. And mainly, I think I would do that one because then if I'm on the desert island, I can then find out what's going on
Yes,
in the
particularly
industry.
in TV world as well.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it can be quite sort of insiderness, the rest of entertainment sometimes. And I'm a bit like, well, you know, maybe I don't know how much other people like listening to it, but I do. I think it's a really great podcast. And Richard Osman is just unbelievable. Everything he does is incredible.
Joel, you have been a fantastic guest. Thank you so, so much.
Such an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, and good luck with the tour.
Thank you. I love you both.
Good luck with the marathon, more importantly.
Yes.
Some brilliant recommendations from Joel there. Both ends of the spectrum, I feel.
Yes.
Shogun, very serious, subtitles. And then optimistic, happy telly, Schitt's Creek, and Ted Lasso.
A good variety there from Joel. Unsurprisingly, he delivered. And I'm in agreement with all his recommendations. So thanks, Joel.
I just hope he beats you in the marathon a little bit.
Do you now?
Well, a little bit.
No, we'll see. I said to Joel, what's more important, running sub 3 or beating me? And he said, I don't care about beating you. I just want to cross the line and feel happy. And I was like, well, I want to beat you, Joel. So
Do you know what would be lovely if you crossed holding hands?
well,
Skipped across.
we've discussed this. We have discussed this. And actually, we are going to be starting it together. So actually, that would be the dream, wouldn't it?
That's all we have got time for. Don't forget, we would love to hear about what you are watching right now and reading and listening to. hello@bingepodcastofficial.com is the email.
Yeah, you can WhatsApp us too. The number's in the description. Binge is a Viral Tribe entertainment production.
Join us next time as we help you sort the binge-worthy.
From the Binworthy.
Bye-bye.